Welcome to the City Council Workshop for Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Citizens may address the council regarding any item of city business that is not on tonight's agenda. You have a 3-minute limit. Is there anyone? Seeing none. Oh. Name and address, please.
Sean Mullaney, 207 East 11th Street. A quick follow-up on the diagonal parking that was talked about 2 weeks ago. If you do a Google map of Laurel and count the parking spaces where there is diagonal parking, it does add 3 to 4 additional parking spaces. But in addition to that, angled parking creates more intimacy for the downtown businesses, and rather than pedestrians crossing 60 feet of asphalt, they're crossing more like 30 feet. So it's a lot safer for pedestrians, and it also slows down traffic in that area. So just wanted to give you all my info. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, under general items, we're going to do a little flippity flop here because we have somebody. I'll just turn this over to you and you can explain what's going on.
Thank you, Mayor. For just the purposes of efficiency and discussions tonight, and to allow one of our audience members to not have to stay through the whole meeting, since we have a lot of budget items on the agenda, I asked the mayor if it would be okay if we moved this particular matter to the beginning. Circulated for council is information related to a proposed resolution to approve a retention agreement related to class action litigation that we are proposing for council to consider having the city of Laurel join. I have not provided you a copy of the complaint thus far because it is still in draft form. If council approves the city being a part of this particular litigation, once everything's formalized and filed, just like with other litigation that we're a part of, I'll provide you copies of it and then continual updates as things progress. This particular matter, I likened in my communications with council to the previous class action litigation that city council has approved, the PSAP litigation related to the water quality testing issues. The structure of this is very similar to that particular litigation that we're involved in. It is a class action suit, meaning that there will be entities that are outside of the city of Laurel that are involved in the litigation. But essentially, without boring you with all the legal details, the particular allegations of this litigation are related to alleged antitrust violations involving the purchase of fire trucks and fire apparatus. In gathering the information that I have from the fire department, we have 2 relevant vehicles over the course of the last decade that may be at issue in this particular litigation. Obviously, our most recent fire truck purchase, and then we have a brush truck that would also be involved in this particular litigation as well. Specifically, the allegations are that there has been an antitrust monopoly or violations in relationship to the purchasing price for these vehicles. The defendants involved are the trade organizations that work directly with the manufacturers and distributors of this equipment, and the allegations in the complaint that ultimately will be filed essentially are that it has resulted in overpricing for this equipment from a market standpoint. Antitrust issues are a very broad body of law, but anything that essentially takes out competitive pricing in the market could potentially be an antitrust violation. And that's specifically what this class action litigation alleges, that cities and towns, not just within the state of Montana, but nationwide, have been put in a spot of paying what are inequitable pricing models for fire trucks and equipment because of the monopolistic nature of how this structure has functioned. So I have had discussions with John Heenan, who is present here, with the Heenan and Cook firm. I've known John for the entire time I've practiced. He and his firm are a very reputable and very good firm here in the state of Montana. There is national counsel that is also involved in this litigation. And so he and I spoke about the city of Laurel joining in this class action litigation. As we discussed in relationship to the other ongoing lawsuit that we have, I don't, as the city's lawyer, see any downside at all to participating in this litigation. There are not costs or fees that we have to advance out of pocket. With regard to the work that is done, I would coordinate that with our city staff the same way as I'm doing on the PSAP litigation as well. I already gathered a lot of information from the fire department on the purchase price of our 2 vehicles that are at issue, and make, model, et cetera, and then got that actually over to John today. So John is here present to answer any questions that you may have. It is my recommendation and our recommendation in speaking with the mayor, with Kurt and city staff, including the chief of the fire department, that council approves us being a part of this class action litigation. Just like with the other lawsuit at issue, an outcome is probably not for quite a while down the road. We know this from other lawsuits, but class action litigation particularly can extend out over a long period of time. But ultimately, the hope would be that there is some level of recovery for the city of Laurel in relationship specifically to the purchase of our 2 fire vehicles. So I'll invite John to come forward and any questions that council has, one, so he can introduce himself to you and then answer any questions that you may have specifically about this proposed litigation.
Thank you, Michelle and Mayor and City Council. Appreciate your time. But Michelle did an excellent job of summarizing. I don't know that I have too much to add. I'm working with the firm of Hagens Berman. They're out of Seattle. They are nationally reputable. They were on the NCAA settlement. And the only thing briefly to add is in a class action, so kind of the goal would be all municipalities like the city of Laurel, we would make a pot for recovery. But the way class actions work is if somebody's willing to be a representative, then we would ask the court for an incentive award, basically over and above what all the other municipalities would receive for being willing to participate. The city of La Crosse, Wisconsin filed the case today. And so the hope would be that Laurel would be the second city and kind of by being second in line would be postured to get a higher incentive award if and when we're successful in our case.
Questions? Councilmember McKay.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's only 2 municipalities so far that are there potentially more?
Yeah, I mean, there's, it's going to be thousands of municipalities that are affected, but unlike the PFAS where basically each municipality has to sign up, in a class action, you only need one essentially to move forward. So they could move forward now just with the city of La Crosse being the representative. But for lots of strategic reasons, they would rather have more than just one, but probably no more than 4 or 5 municipalities be representative of every municipality in the country. Great question.
Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and thinking of us as we are spending our money on this fire truck. My concern is the paragraph that says that after the class action case is settled, that then when we reimburse all the attorney's fees, as I understand, it can be a long process. Is there any chance that the amount won will be less than all the fees that will occur over that time?
No, so and glad to revise to cure any concerns, but as Michelle said, basically we advance all the time and the costs. If we're unsuccessful, we, the lawyers, eat that. There would never be a circumstance where we would say to the city of Laurel, please reimburse us for anything. And I
Any
should
other-
also add, I really appreciate getting on the agenda tonight because I'm going to be on the middle fork of the salmon all next week. So,
Any other questions? No, I have one, John.
yes, sir.
Does the company that we bought our truck, is this against every manufacturer or certain manufacturers?
Certain manufacturers and certainly the fire truck that you bought is one of them. But I think also that brush truck based on the information that Michelle provided. But basically the allegation is that they all work together to keep prices artificially high. Meaning the city of Laurel, you know, in our opinion, overpaid for those trucks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you for coming tonight, John.
Well, thank you for having me,
And-
Mayor.
Feel free to leave because we got a bunch of stuff.
Okay, well, I was at a Billings Public School meeting last night for several hours, so I appreciate leave. Thank you, and everybody have a good night.
Now the fun stuff. I'm going to turn this over to Clerk Treasurer. She can read her resolutions and she'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. The first one is the resolution that's approving amendments and appropriations and revenues for the city of Laurel's fiscal year 24-25. You guys did see this a couple of weeks ago. There was a slight mishap that we forgot to put the public hearing on the agenda. We put the resolution, so we had to start this process over. So public hearing will be next week with this resolution. Number 2 is the resolution approving and adopting the final budget for the city of Laurel for fiscal year 2025-26. I did circulate on Friday, as promised in Budget Finance, that I would have it to all of the council members prior to Brittany sending out the agenda so that you had a few more days to review it prior to this, since this usually does take a lot of conversation, and hopefully had questions, if any, that would have arose while you were reviewing it. I did send out the memo, kind of letting you guys understand how we go about given the expenditures and how we get the revenues in from the Department of Revenue. So the first numbers I just so that you guys could see, I just compared those to 2024. As the mayor and I were pretty shocked on how the numbers came out, since things were higher in some areas and things were lower in others. Like the market value was quite a bit higher this year than it was last year, but the taxable value was less. And then the taxable value for newly taxable properties was considerably less. And then the taxable less incremental tax value was quite a bit less as well. So these are the numbers that I use when determining the total mills and the value of the mill. So this year, the city received a current inflation adjustment of 2.11%, which is roughly $32,411. The adjusted tax value per mill is $8,014.73, which last year it was $9,956, which is about $1,942 less per mill than it was from the previous year. When calculating the total market value, the total taxable value, the taxable value for newly taxable property, and the taxable value less incremental taxable value, the city will receive 195.70 mills this year compared to 145.44 for fiscal year 24, which then in turn is an increase of approximately $120,000 more in revenue. There are always things that the general fund has to absorb due to budget shortages in other areas, especially in the special revenues, or your 2000 accounts, which is in your budget book, is the second chapter, I guess I should say, which has very minimal revenue sources of income. So the funds, those funds, just to name a couple, are the planning department. They function on very limited. The library, the emergency disaster program, the lights, the bus transit, all granted. Bus transit's strictly run on the little bit of bus rides we give and then grants that we apply for every year. And then this year, the general fund will have to absorb, like we did last year, Senate Bill 382, which is the land use plan of the $250,000, and then the planning engineer cost of $50,000. So because planning just doesn't have any money. Now, we have been granted a grant of about $380,000 to help offset the cost of the Senate bill that is being mandated that we have to complete by December of 26, correct, Kurt? December 26? Yep. So that's one of the major things that the general fund is having to absorb this year. After working with all of the department heads and their asks, I do have to say that they did a great job of trying to keep the budget in their departments, either cut if they could, or obviously there, some places had to have increases. The increase for the city council is the Montana League of Cities and Towns, which that membership was $1 per capita, and this year it raised to $150, which then increased the budget for the city council by about $4,200. And then all of you agreed to not take an increase this year, which thank you. We appreciate all your hard work, and to not have any incentive for that, that's great for the city. The mayor cut out a few things out of his budget to decrease his. Since we did not have a chief administrative officer last year, there was a slight increase due to his wages. Most of those wages are absorbed through the whole entire city. So enterprise funds, any of that are absorbed through his wages. Planning department absorbs a little bit of it. So that's about an increase in the budget of about $50,000 to pay for the CAO. The city court decreased their budget this year due to last year they had the, for the record that we attached to theirs that they have for the court so that they can record everything. This year, they didn't have any major asks, so that did decrease their budget. My budget is a decrease from last year as we chose not to take on the other budget that we had. So we had the regular budget book we normally give you. And then we did the second one that was all electronic. That was very hard to put together. And I had a lot of complaints from the department heads that they did not like that. They would rather have the budget book in front of them to look at versus anything else. So that was about a $13,000 decrease. The city attorney, which would be our prosecutor, and our civil attorney, very small decrease. They, in a couple of things that just maybe were a little higher last year that we just bumped down just a little bit. Same thing with the city hall budget. We just, we don't have any wages attached to that since we hire another company. We don't have to pay city wages. So that came down just a little bit. And I'm not talking like these are drastically hundreds of thousands of dollars each person is giving up, but each person did give up some out of their budgets. The police department as well. Chief Anglin did a great job trying to keep things as limited as he possibly could to still survive in his department. As you all know, the increase in the fire department was due to the purchase of the fire truck because we do have to appropriate that somewhere. So the purchase of the new fire truck was on their budget, and we did get the loan for the $550,000. So that offsets part of the increase in their budget. And then they also have hired a few more volunteers. So they have a little bit more in wages to pay those extra volunteers. The rest of the debt for that fire truck did come out of the capital funds that we, out of the capital reserve funds to pay for the other part of that fire truck as well. Fire inspections decreased a little bit by just giving up some of their regular expenses that they probably didn't spend last year, figured they could get away from, spending it this year. Building department did increase just a little bit due to, Jason, his wages went up just a little bit because he has been certified for several more things. So he was promised a raise if he passed those tests, which he has done. And then the code enforcement and safety, that was just a very slight decrease. There was as far as the ambulance department, I'm not sure if you're all aware of how the ambulance department runs, but Lindy could not be here tonight to explain this, so I'm gonna try my best. But she hires volunteers that help out, and then she also has her full-time help. Well, without asking to hire more employees at full-time, her people have agreed that they will work 48 hours a week. So every week they have overtime. So the overtime hours every week is what accumulates to make her budget go higher. She has the mill that was voted in. She does have that to help offset part of her budget or to help with her budget. So that's great. And then this year, I'm not sure if you're all aware, but you'll notice down the other 18 of these resolutions that we have to go through that there was a new levying voted mills required that passed through the legislative. And so it's chapter 674 and 767, which was passed by the legislative session. This new law, it requires that the taxing entity with a local mill levy limit a specific number of mills that they may impose, that was authorized by the voters prior to May 13th of 2025 that require us to select two methods to recalculate that. One is a dollar base. So either we have to say we're going to be a dollar base or we're going to use mills to counter what those are. Watching the webinar, visiting with Montana League, and talking with the mayor, Kurt, we have decided that is for the best interest of the city that we use dollars. Our resolution that we passed when we voted in the mill stated $450,000 or 50 mills, which, so obviously this year, with the mill value going down, we could not go over 50 mills, and it's going to take about 57.4 mills to fund the 450,000. So by using the dollars and claiming dollars, we get to take per MCA, get to convert that, and then we get the percentage of the 2.13 every year. So with Lindy's mill being 450,000, this year is 459,000 if we choose to go that way. Otherwise, we would be cut short. So that kind of explains a little bit of how that resolution works that you guys will hear about later in the meeting. The city shop is in desperate need of a new roof. So their budget increased just a little bit due to putting a new roof on. I think Matt was thinking roughly about $50,000, but it is leaking water into the shop. The cemetery has just a slight decrease in their budget just due to not using things from last year that they thought that they could give up a little bit this year. Same thing with the park. I know that the parks have several projects that they wanted to try to do this year. And so visiting with Matt, he has park money that he gets, for park renovations and stuff. And that's done through capital. And so instead of having the general fund absorb Matt's extra things, which he had mentioned to me a few things, possibly new bathrooms at the splash park, and restoring of a couple of other buildings, we decided to put that into the capital since they are over they will be over $80,000. And then this way he'll be able to use that money from the park funds that he gets in. Just a couple other quick notes regarding the entire budget. The library will be receiving 25 mills this year, which will keep her at about 20% reserves. The comp insurance, which is our liability vehicle and equipment, increased just a little bit for the insurance of the buildings, liability insurance, and that's just due to probably adding more liability to somebody or vehicles. We had to add a few vehicles, which increases the liability insurance a little bit. There's no changes to the planning department and the enterprise funds, the water, sewer, and garbage. There's no significant changes, as you are all aware that we are trying to receive a grant for doing a new tower. So we will be putting a lot of this into reserve so that we will have the money when that grant comes forward, hopefully sometime soon. Couple other things I wanted to note is, as of tonight, unless you guys have other questions or have any concerns about one of the budgets you were presented, the general fund is balanced and it will hold 32% reserves. The library, as I mentioned, will have 20% reserves. The PERS, which is the retirement program for the city of Laurel, will hold 16% reserves. The employer contributions to group health will have 29% reserves. And the fire disability, which is also something that uses the 195, has 4 mills and they do not have any reserves. They can't hold any reserves in that. So I guess I will open it up to anybody that has any questions for me or any of the department heads that are here. You can if we can answer any questions that you might have by the information that was sent out to you. Or if you saw any mistakes, let me know.
Councilmember McKay.
First of all, thank you.
You're
'Cause
welcome.
I can't even wrap my head around a whole lot of this, so I appreciate that there's people out there that can do it, so thank you. One thing that just kind of caught my eye, it was on the city shop one, line 341, the electric utility services, the percentage of 1,071.
Glad you saw that. See, we always have,
Okay,
okay, so 341.
yeah,
Oh, that's because if you look right beside that, last year I forgot a 0.
okay, I wondered about that.
So I only had it at 1,400.
Okay, so that's where.
And it should be 14,000. So we used 1,000% of our budget last year. So obviously that budget line did go in negative, but it didn't make their whole budget go negative. So that was a typo last year. So
Just a
this year it's
number typo.
fixed.
Okay,
Yes,
all
so
right.
this year it's fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Councilmember Mize.
Thank you, and thank you for the hard work you've done. We know we give you many challenges this year, so thank you for presenting us with a balanced budget. I am curious, do you know how many meals we gave the library last year?
We gave the library 35 meals last year.
Okay,
I did speak with Nancy. Nancy has been wonderful about not spending her money. So we try to give her enough meals to get her budget going. Nancy has had quite the reserve going, and so in order to be able to balance the budget, we had talked with her about using more of her reserves. She is still going to have enough in reserves to keep her funded the whole entire year, but we had to take some of her meals away.
so the mills are worth less this year, and we're also gonna give her 10 less this year.
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
Okay, so do you know approximately how many dollars less that becomes with the mill value?
So the city will give her a little over $200,000 in mill value.
Okay,
And then she's going to use about 140 of her own.
so when a department has a reserve account, in theory, that's money that department has been setting aside over time for a project or a car or a fix-it or something that they as a department head have thought, I would like to plan ahead for that? Is that what reserves generally are for?
The reserves are in there in case we have some kind of an emergency that needs to happen. One thing that you have to keep in mind is you can't have more than 50% in reserves. 50% of dollar amount that you have to spend that amount. So if we gave Nancy all of the mills to fund her budget, she's gonna be way over 50%, which is a huge audit finding. And state law says you can't have more than 50% in reserves like you have to either put it in a, you have to put it in a budget somehow, but Nancy's real good about like only budgeting what she absolutely needs, correct, Nancy? So that's why. And then we spoke with Nancy on like, this is what your cash balance is. This is what the city can give you this year. I visited with her for quite a while last week and explained, showed her all the different things, and she seemed to be okay with it when she left. She can speak for herself, but she did seem to be okay. She is going to still remain with her reserves at about $68,000. So Nancy, do you want to come up and?
This one? Okay. Nancy Schmidt, Director at the Laurel Public Library. I am pretty okay. I kind of was hoping that we'd be able to move that money into a library depreciation reserve fund, which would fund, improvements on the library rather than coming through the general fund. Unfortunately, we have to use it from my budget this year. So, and I really honestly, until Kelly told me how much I had no idea I had that much in my cash account. So it's kind of mind boggling that I didn't spend that. That won't happen again. Just saying. But yeah, it is kind of disheartening when you think, oh, I'm doing really good on my budget and I'm being really careful. And then, oh, by the way, because you did so well, we're not going to give you quite as much, but it happens. It's like, the devil knows when you have money.
And also, the last couple of years, the general fund has absorbed some of Nancy's needs. We put a new roof on the building, and then we also replaced her soffit and fascia through a grant. And so I was real devastated to have to give Nancy the news. So we talked it over, and we understand where she's coming from as well.
I came over to talk about the car. And she goes, oh, by the way, I need to talk to you. And I went, don't lead with that. Lead with, we figured this out, but by the way, it's like, so yeah, it's, and the shelves, you guys had to replace a couple shelving units for us. And we'll just, like all libraries, we'll just keep moving forward. I do appreciate the hard work, Kelly. I know it's not easy. Crunching these numbers, even at the library, and when I do mine, because I have these other two funds that I get money from, I have to write out these reports. So starting in October, I'm going to be doing my detailed report. Kelly, I need everything that I spent money on last year. And then I have to send it out to the state, which goes out to the federal government. So I get to do double duty, but yeah. I don't have a whole lot else to add to that other than we're just glad we didn't have to cut wages or anything.
And you won't have to cut staff or any of your people or anything with that.
No, and they got their raises through the union. So just wait and see what I get. So if I do, yeah. And our benefits, we still have those. So yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Nancy.
Councilmember Mize?
Thank you. Okay, on page 19, we have a section for code enforcement. And then on page 14, we have a whole section for animal control. I think that should have been 24, but I thought animal control and code enforcement were the same. So I'm just curious why we have two different budget.
Kurt, would you mind explaining that,
No.
please? Or
Jared.
Jared, do you want to explain it? One of the two of you want to explain? That's.
Everyone, you're right. So our animal control and our code enforcement officer are the exact same person. They do have, or he does have, different specific budgets for each and everything. i.e., if you look at his vehicle that he drives, it's a code enforcement vehicle. It says code enforcement on it. He also handles a majority when he's on shift. He does all the animal control and all that stuff. So when your question is, why are they?
Well, how do you decide what falls into what, and why don't we just write them as one budget if it's one person performing the duties?
I'll answer that. So,
Getting paid twice?
no. So the code enforcement is your Laurel Municipal Code.
Yeah.
So you need an officer that does Laurel Municipal Code. The reason you have a separate budget for that is so the city council can sit there and recognize what enforcing the Laurel Municipal Code details. So the officer, we call him an officer still, don't we? Code enforcement officer. He goes out and he'll do like overgrown weeds. So we have a weed ordinance, anything over 8 inches. He has to send out letters, and he has done that. He sends out people that, hey, you need to mow your weeds, you need to take care of that. I have a neighbor that has a lot down on South 4th Street. He comes over and visits me every time he gets a letter from the code enforcement. So that is why you have that. You have it specifically duties assigned to code enforcement of the Laurel Municipal Code. So the weed code, the tree ordinance, even though it was kind of vague on what, that was part of that. So when that position was created over at the PD, it used to be over at City Hall. We had the building inspector, code enforcement, and it was paid out of there. It was then separated and went over to the PD. They have more readily information and can communicate with dispatch better. So before our dispatch or our code enforcement upstairs was pretty much on their own as far as going out and doing the weed letters. They didn't have the resources they do over there where they could actually look up, information, make sure that if they're dealing with somebody violent, they could do a check on that and make sure that. So it was better suited over there. So that position was moved out of this building over to that. And then it was also supplemented with the animal control money that we've always had. The previous police chief and police chief before that is barking and parking. So we also are doing the parking code. So that's part of the code enforcement is the parking stuff. So the 5-day, I think it's 5 days in the city, you got to move your vehicle. That's a code enforcement, not an animal control. So they just break it out and then it's paying the same officer. So his duties are to spend some of his time doing both. When there's an animal complaint, he goes, does that. When there's a abandoned vehicle on the street, he goes and does that work. We don't break it out how much time they're spending doing one or the other. It's just assume that they're going to do all of it. And so if you got into it where you would actually have a hard time budgeting. So if say there was no animal control for the entire budget year, you would spend no money out of that and you would increase just like all you did was code enforcement. Well, that's not reality. I'm sure, well, I know because I see the Facebook post weekly, they're dealing with stray dogs. They're going into dispatch and then they're putting it on Facebook and trying to find the owners. And that's probably almost a daily occurrence. Pets are getting loose in town and they're trying to find the owners of those pets. And Facebook's been a wonderful thing, I think, for the PD because you put that dog on there and it's shared. And I think it doesn't take very long to get a dog back to its rightful owner. So if they claim it. But so that's the reason why we have two different sections in the budget book.
Thank you. I've got more. Does anyone else want to? Okay, my next one's for Matt. Matt, on cemetery, there's an increase in the overtime. And I'm wondering, do we have a person that's on shift on weekends or is that we have to always have overtime?
Okay, probably most of this year, we had only 2 people on Saturdays. We are now back up to 3 people on Saturdays. And one of the men that works on Saturdays is now doing the cemetery. If he's here, there still could be a possibility that we would have overtime for a burial on a Saturday, but that's exactly what has happened is for the last year, we've only had 2 people on Saturdays is about the bottom line.
Thank you. And then a second question for you now on Parks Department. I see that irrigation, we have a 0% for this year. And I'm wondering, is that because we're talking about the sprinklers going in? Is that capital improvement project as opposed to as a?
Yes, that would be
General
my
fund
assumption is the sprinklers that we want to put in Nutting Park, visiting with Kelly, that would come out of some of the settlement money, for lack of a better term, from years ago, but it is for parks.
Just wanted to make sure we weren't forgetting that project. When I saw that
yeah.
irrigation was at 0, I was like, uh-oh, I thought we wanted a project there.
Great question. I didn't see that yet, so, all right.
Okay, Okay, and so then, I know you tried to explain this to me more than once, but so the CAO budget that is written in our packet shows that he's receiving a salary of $39,000 and a general budget of about 50. But the contract we passed was for 115,000, and that was in on January 28th. If anyone wants to reference page 87 of that packet. So I know it's because it's split out of other lines, but for transparency for the public, I wondered if there is a way to show either on the CAO page or then in the other budget pages, a line item that would say this percentage of Parks and Rec budget goes to the CAO, or this, so that when someone says, I heard you're paying them 115, but your budget book only shows 50,000.
Which the other, so he has his own CAO page, just like I have my CA or my own page, and every department has their own page. And we all have wages, which is 110, right? So as you look through, like, that's the only thing he's paid for in the general, or that's his general fund budget. Then in the enterprise funds, he's paid out of planning, which you don't have the planning packet in front of you. So there's a planning line and wages come out of that. And then the water, he comes out of water, he comes out of streets, he comes out of sewer. Yes,
Okay, and that's not in what we have.
right.
When we see that part, will it have like a
It-
code number or something? It'll
it-
say.
It doesn't. It just is under salary and wages. So in our payroll accounting system, we have percentages in there so that it knows when we pay the CAO his wage, it pulls this much from the 110 of the street department or this much, but we don't list like every single person on how much, because we have several employees that are paid out of like, for instance, my office is paid out of water, sewer, garbage, general fund. And we don't list those, yeah. So, and then like the garbage department, they might be paid out of 50% collection, 50% of disposal. And so we don't list each person, but in our payroll system, it's a percentage.
Okay, thank you. That does help.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move forward with, where are we at now? Oh, number 3?
Only on number 3.
Jeez. So anybody have any questions on anything in particular? I mean, that's a lot of them to go through, but we will. Okay. Resolution levying taxes for general and specific purposes for the city of Laurel, Montana for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025.
I can explain what that resolution is. So, our constituents or residents that either rent or have purchased and leave town and leave the city of Laurel with a balance owing on their water, sewer, and garbage charges, we're allowed to levy. This is the one. Oh, sorry, not this one. That one's down one more, but this is the levying for the taxes of the general fund that we talked to about in the memo. So this is the one that we can appropriate, whether it's dollars or mills for the ambulance. Which one?
95, 25.
Oh, that's this paper, sorry, the mills value, which we talked about already too. That's the general mills. I didn't have my little cheat sheet next to me, sorry. That's for the general fund mills that we're taking, we're using 94 mills to support the general fund. The comp insurance, we're using 18.7. Library, they are receiving 25. The PERS is 25. Contribution to health insurance is 29, and then the fire disability is 4. Sorry about that, guys.
Question?
It's been a real busy week.
Any questions on that? Number 4, resolution levying and assessing all of the property embraced within Special Improvement Lighting District Number 2 of the city of Laurel, Montana for the entire cost of maintenance and electrical current for the fiscal year 25-26.
So this is the light district. This is the assessment that you see on your taxes for the light district if you live in number 2.
Number 5 is for District Number 3. Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. All of these ones that are for the districts, they haven't really changed since the contract last year, right?
No, there's no changes in the lighting district at all. Or there's a slight change in the sweeping, which is the next resolution in the sweeping. And then the street maintenance resolution, which is number 7. We did increase the street maintenance. It used to be at about 3 cents per cubic foot, and we raised that to 4, so that instead of the maximum, like for the bigger areas, Walmart, the bigger areas, instead of it being $1,600, it will be $2,000 this year. And then if you have a 4,200 square foot lot or area, it would be 171 is what you'd be paying. So as I look through the report, and you attached that report, right? You can see a lot of them are like at 135 or less. So it just increased by a penny per square foot.
Number 8 is the same street improvements for District Number 113.
Those are loans that those are that's a special improvement district and for 113, which we've had for quite a few years. And those are to assess to certain properties in that area.
Any questions? Okay, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all resolutions level sidewalk improvements. Do we have any questions on any of those? Um, 14 is what she got into about the delinquent water charges. Anybody have any questions how she does that?
15 sewer
15 is the sewer delinquent.
and 16 is garbage.
16 is garbage. Any questions? Am I going too fast for anybody?
These are pretty repetitious year to year.
17 is a resolution of the city establishing the method of levying voted mills as required by laws 2025. Chapters 674 and 767 passed in the 69th Montana legislative session.
That's the one with the ambulance mills.
Taking the cash instead of the,
Instead of mills.
okay. Questions on that?
Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
My finger moved.
18.
Oh.
This is the SRO.
18, we have a resolution of the city council approving agreement regarding school resource officer program by and between the city of Laurel and the Laurel Public Schools District 7 and 770. Chief.
Hello again. So this is the new contract. It's the same contract that Michelle wrote up a couple years ago. I want to say 2-3 years ago. So what's changing here? The wording is completely the same as years past. Of course, dates are changed. If you go to number 9, that will show the payment and costs, and you'll see the difference in wages between SRO number 1 and SRO number 2. That'll be the portion that the school district will pay. The reason they're different is years of service for both of my officers that are going to be SROs. Okay. So the SROs are going to be the exact same as they were last year. Officer Johnson will be at the high school and Officer Cedric will be at the new intermediate middle school and West Elementary School. It is my proponent to you guys go through this and yeah, pass it. We need SROs in the school. Definitely. That was my big push when I spoke to the superintendent about it. On behalf of the police department, is that we do need SROs in the school system. And I'm a proponent of having 2 SROs for the school district. One would be a lot for the amount of schools that we have and the locations that we have. So I'm going to continue with the two school SROs and go from there. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Did your 2 officers want to be SROs, or do you at random kind of decide who gets that assignment?
Yes, they wanted to be SROs. Well, when the vacancy happens, like I said, last year, a couple vacancies came up. Officer Sedgwick's been at the middle school for a couple years now. He replaced Detective Bryant. Officer Bryant was the SRO at the middle school for about, I want to say 11 years, 12 years. And then came out of that to become detective. And then Sergeant Swan, who replaced me when I got promoted, she herself got promoted to sergeant. And then Officer Johnson showed interest into going to the SRO program. So.
Anything else?
And just to let you all know, they just completed in June, I sent both of them to an AVERT, Active Violence Emergency Response Training. So they are both instructors in regards to that. And they will push that schooling and training into their schools. So, yes.
Thank you. As a follow-up, now that our schools are by multi-level, does that change their level of training that they're going to need, or even their responses to handling emergency situations?
Yep. So I was lucky. I was at the high school, 1 level, and now with the new schools, specifically the intermediate school, yeah, that's a definite adherence to knowing your building. And we went through, the department has gone through, we haven't seen it completed. We were going through as they were still working on the inside. So that's one thing that we're going to familiarize ourselves with the schools, with the new school anyways. One thing that I do like about the new school is each level is color coordinated. It's different colors for each level. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Chief.
Perfect.
19 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Morrison Merrily Systems Technology Consultants for managed network services.
This resolution is for our IT department that we hire. We hire Morrison Merrily as our IT department. Actually, Brittany and I both met with them last week regarding the IT in the building. They are the ones that manage all of our computers citywide. Make sure that our servers are up running, do our updates that we need, anything like that. And then this year, there is a slight increase in the quote that they had given us for that IT service, and that was to add a extra security to the emails. So those fine emails that you get from the mayor telling you that he needs gift cards, you should
I
not.
still do.
You should not see those. Those are obviously phishing emails. And then they showed us a risk report to just the amount of who in the city gets the most things, and it's all of us that manage invoices. So Matt was, had quite a few hits. I had quite a few hits. Yeah, Matt was our winner. And that's just because he deals so much with the invoices, but they really fish. And we could get one of those emails and delete it, and immediately another one will pop up. A lot of them I've been sending to Michelle, is this spam? Because it's a lot of public records requests that I've been getting a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So we added an extra layer of security to the email. So hopefully they are telling us that those should get caught in your Barracuda and you should never see them, and then they'll make sure that they don't come through. So we're hoping by adding that extra little bit of a layer that we don't have that, because we're afraid, somebody might click on it and something might happen. So
You'll know it's really from me if you get one wanting something from Pizza Ranch or Chick-fil-A. Any questions? Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. We have used them in the past, correct? So I saw that on the bill it says for onboarding, but I wasn't quite sure since this is not our first year with them, why we're getting charged in onboarding.
So that $270 onboarding fee is to onboard this extra line of security. It's a one-time only fee to add that extra security to everybody's computer. So that's what that is. And they said there's quite a few steps to it, but it takes less than an hour. And they're the ones that do all your updating on all your computers when Brittany asks for them. That's who we're dealing with is Morrison Merrily.
Any other questions? Then we will move on to the resolution of the city council approving conversion of the Laurel City Court to a court of record.
Thank you, Mayor. So as council is aware, council approved purchasing of equipment this last year for conversion of the court to a court of record. Based upon, I think, certainly my recommendations, I think agreement from city staff that has an awareness of kind of various things in the court. And then as well, I think the judge's agreement that it would be useful to have our court be able to record in some format what is occurring versus in a lot of courts, what we have is a formal either court reporter or transcription service. This is equipment that will audio record so that the court can keep a record of proceedings. And then we can go back and be able to review that at any point. That equipment was purchased. My understanding is that the judge believed that we needed to take an additional step to actually have city council approve utilization of that equipment by way of converting the court to a court of record. That just came to our attention recently. I was not aware that that was the court's perception. I have absolutely no issue with presenting this in order to make sure that the judge has assurance that council wants to move the court in that direction. It's not legally required. But it was something that the judge felt, from my understanding, needed to occur in order for her to be able to begin utilizing that equipment. So this will give approval to the court to put that equipment in place, train on it, because my understanding is that no training has been undertaken yet with the equipment as well, and then be able to put that process into place. This, I think, from the standpoint, and we've had this discussion before, for formality of the court, I think is really important, but it will be very useful, with regard to, a variety of issues that arise on a daily basis to have a record actually of what communications are occurring in the judicial system here.
Questions? Councilmember Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two. Number one is there a cost to the city changing from one court system to another? And the second one is this going to help us with the collection of fines so we don't have such a big amount of money that's outstanding?
Kelly can speak further on this. The only actual cost that I'm aware of is what was already approved by city council, which is the equipment to be utilized. So moving forward, I don't know if there's any training cost that's involved. I mean, there is a training element in order to be able to understand how to use the equipment. But from a cost standpoint, the equipment is purchased. It's been here, I think, for quite a while. It just has not been utilized because, like I said, the court apparently was waiting for council approval on this conversion. We weren't aware. I certainly wasn't. I don't think any city staff was aware that that was what the court was requesting for us to do. And so then when that came to our attention, I said, certainly it's easy for us to put this in front of council to make sure that the court has the assurances this is the direction for things to move. So I don't believe there'll be any additional costs involved at all unless there's some problem that occurs with the equipment for some reason. And in relationship to the collection issue, I don't know that I would say that this necessarily will affect the issues in relationship to collection. And we certainly have, and as council is aware, we've moved in the direction of working with the collection agency to begin collecting fines stemming from citations. I think that is more of a practice issue as far as trying to ensure that fines are collected. For example, even before people are leaving the courtroom or the court area, I should say. So if I were to give an analogous situation, and I don't know how often this happens in our judicial process, I don't think it is as consistent as what I observe in many other court processes. If you were to look, for example, at the Billings Municipal Court, now that is a municipal court, so it is a different layer than what our city court is here, but constituents that are fined actually go directly to the clerk's office before they even leave to pay citations or give a form of payment. I think some of the collectability issues that have arisen for our process has been that really has not occurred. I do think there is an effort to move that in a direction to have that happen, because once someone's left the building, collectability becomes a much harder issue. And so I think processes that ensure that as someone who is cited and fined is leaving, they are paying their fine at that time or giving a form of payment, I think will assist with that as well. I don't know what things look like as far as our collection, if that's improved as we've been working with the collection agency. That has been the goal. I will say, I think all of us have an awareness, we've gone through a couple of court clerk hiring issues over the course of the last year, and that falls on our clerks to get that work done. And so I think, there might have been a little bit of a delay in that because maybe that hasn't been necessarily the priority because of just trying to, train new people, et cetera. But I do think that the court has, and I can speak for our city clerks, our city court clerk at least, has an awareness that that is a priority because there is a large balance on collections.
Thank you.
Thank you. You touched briefly on our clerk turnover. And so I'm under the impression that right now we only have one court clerk. And so my only question on the court of record is, does this create a burden for her that will create a lot of overtime needs or an additional workload for her?
Not that I'm aware of. And I haven't seen exactly what our equipment looks like. Kelly might be able to speak to this more specifically than I can. The equipment, in my experience, being in courtrooms on a daily basis, it's a very the equipment is very self-functioning. So I mean, literally, it's a button you're press. I think there's one button you're pressing, to be able to indicate, okay, this is when we're starting a recordation of something, and then the same thing as far as
it doesn't have to be
discontinuing it.
Transcribed by her.
No, and
Okay.
that is a significant difference between city courts and municipal courts, because once we get to the point about having to actually look, if we are in a municipal court setting in a transcription situation, the costs of that are significantly higher. And some of that can be passed on to parties in litigation. So, many times parties in litigation who are looking for transcription of an actual audio recording have to absorb that cost on their own. But just the fact of having to have a court reporter present to be able to provide those services is a significant cost. This is a really good, in my opinion, kind of measured approach to being able to have documentation in an audio format of what's occurring in the court process until someone actually needs it for some reason. And there's a variety of reasons that could occur. It could be a party requesting it, and then they'd absorb the cost of transcribing something. It also is very useful for us anytime a complaint comes up, whether it's a personnel issue or a complaint from a citizen that's in the courtroom, because to date, as we've discussed in the past, we've had no way to go back and say, this is what unfolded in that process. So I think this is a really, really positive step for our judicial system, and will provide a lot of safeguards both for those present in the courtroom as well as our court staff.
You seem really interested in the court. Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Markegard.
On behalf of the judge, she couldn't be here tonight. She had a family medical emergency in Billings. So she asked me to If she does not show, can't make the council workshop, it is because I am with family at the hospital. I will find out what questions the council members will have and will prepare a presentation if necessary. So I just wanted to pass that along from the judge to the members in this body and the mayor and the city attorney that she did send me a message saying that she was going to try to make it, but due to a family emergency, she's dealing with that. So.
Thank you. Any council issues? Other items went to the top of the list, didn't it? Attendance at next week's upcoming meeting. No Mr. Closey, no Councilmember Banks. She will still be in Bozeman. So everybody else has to show. Under announcements, you all know that Troy Clifton passed away. His funeral will be Friday, the 22nd, 11 a.m. St. Anthony's. Why didn't you just say it? Okay. So
I was helping you.
if you'd like to go, there will be a large contingent from the city. We will be shutting City Hall down
For the time of the funeral.
from 10:30 to
Noon.
noon probably, because a lot of the employees would like to go. So, again, it's the 22nd at St. Anthony's at 11 o'clock. So, any other things? Yes, sir.
The Montana Leagues of Cities and Towns is having a conference in October, I think the 15th, 16th, 17th. Early bird pricing, so if you want to go, you would need to sign up by September 1st, I believe. After September 1st, it goes up, I think $40 or $50. So if any of the council members or staff are thinking about attending that conference, it is in Billings this year, so it's a short drive over in the morning and then back. Last year, I think it was in West Yellowstone. I think I was about the only one that went. A lot of the things that they'll discuss, hopefully, is the legislative changes that went on in the last legislative session. So of all the times to attend the conferences, I would always say, do it the year of the legislative body and the fact that it's in Billings. I think it's by the law that they passed when they're the main member of the Montana League. They get to host that every so often as part of their fee that they pay into it. So this year it is in Billings. The agenda is not out yet. I looked just today, but I wanted to remind everyone that if you do put in for that, Kelly, I think Kelly can help you register, go through that process and get the payment paid for that if it's in your budget to have some of the council members go to that. So I believe it's in your membership budget line item and the trainings and stuff like that. So it is a good chance to go and review what's gone on in the legislative body for the 2025. So thank you.
Anything else? Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to our fire department last night. We had a 1,200 acre fire down on Krug's Ranch and others down south of they, along with how many other agencies, Kurt? 17? They had, they did awesome. The landowner called me today and was talking to me, was ecstatic about how quick our response was. And he couldn't believe all the other agencies that jumped in to help us. He was very thankful that they were able to control it under 1,200 acres. So they did a great job. We've got a very good fire department. We do. We might have a little personality things, but hey, they are darn good. So is our police department and our ambulance. We are very blessed as a city to have those three agencies as good as they are. So if nothing else, yes, sir, Mr. Councilmember Canopy.
I would just like to do the same thing for Matt. Him and I have been visiting quite a bit on a stop sign up off of Ridge Drive onto Alder. And he's been with the county several conversations and he managed to get that done. And they actually cut the trees down. It's a clear shot. At least now they'll have to stop at that stop sign and not go 70 miles an hour across the top of that. So anyway, he finally got it done and I appreciate it. It was huge. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good deal. We are adjourned.